Hey, this lesson we are going to be looking at more about drawing shapes on Canvas. Now there's some good information available at the Mozilla Developer Network. This is the way to look at Canvas as a grid because you've got a number of pixels, width and height, and then this is where you can position elements to start drawing on the canvas. And you can see these coordinates here as well. So we've got an X and a Y. So we created that fill rectangle. We've got our starting position of X and Y. Those are starting coordinates. And then we've got the width, so the amount we want to go horizontally, and then the height that we want to go vertically. And that's going to give us all the dimensions that we need in order to produce a rectangle. There's also a stroke rectangle, so it draws an outline of a rectangle. So these are different because the fill rectangle gives you a filled rectangle, stroke gives you a stroke around it, and a clear rectangle, you're not going to be able to see it because this is going to be a fully transparent rectangle. They've got some examples here as well. So let's open up our editor and I'm going to try these out on our own. So we already have the canvas selected. So now we just need to select the CTX object. And within the CTX object, you can see that brackets is giving me a lot of different options here. So the one that we want to look at, and we've already seen this one, so this is going to be really quick, fill rectangle. So all we need to do is specify where we want to start the fill of the rectangle. And if we want to start it at 10, and vertically we want to start it at 50, and we want to go 50 pixels across as well, 10 pixels down. What do you think this is going to look like? This time we didn't set a color. Default color is always going to be black. Starting at position 10 from the left, 50 from the top. So it's starting in that position here where my mouse cursor is, and it's moving 50 pixels across, and it's moving 10 pixels down. That's how you can draw the rectangle. If we want to do the one where we've just got the outline, so this is the stroke option. So it's a stroke rectangle. And we can specify, again, expecting the same dimensions. And let's start this one at 100. And we'll move this one down. So we'll start it at 100 by 50. This one 100 and 50 down. And you're going to see now we're going to have a second object within our dimensions. And you can see this is that rectangle that we've got where we're just applying the stroke. And if we do a clear one, clear rectangle, and it expects the same parameters, but what's going to happen is you're not actually going to be able to see this one. So if I start at 70 and 70, and let's make this one really wide, so 150 by 150, and if I refresh, what's happened here is that we've started at 70, 70, so that's over top of the one that's below it. And if we want to set different colors, the fill style, where we're able to set the fill style, so what's going to happen here is that now the fills are all going to be red until we change it or until we specify a different fill color. And there's also a way to do the stroke color, and that's stroke style. And this one as well, you can set to a color value, and you can see that now that the strokes are all going to be having a blue line, whereas the fill is red, and this is going to be persistent for all the different elements. So there's also another way to draw on the canvas. So selecting the CTX object, we're going to do begin path. And what begin path is going to be, this is going to be specifying where we've got a starting point where we want to start drawing. And then we can, just as if, imagine if we had a pen, we could move our pen, so moving it to an XY coordinate. So if we want to move it over, and I'm going to select where I cleared it, so roughly around 70. 70 is where I want to move my pen to. And then the CTX, and we can do line 2. And what line 2 is, again, it's expecting those two parameters. So think of it this way, where we've got the begin path, and then we move to a certain spot, and this one is going to be over where my cursor is. And now, which way do we want to go? What's the next spot that we want to hit and we want to stop at? So maybe it's 100 by 100. So that's the pixel spot. And again, think of it as a grid. You can also do line 2. So you can add in as many of these line 2s as you want. So it can be 10 and 50. You have to select either you want to fill it or you want to see the stroke. So let's do that. So CTX fill, and once you apply the fill, then you're going to be able to see that we were able to have a starting position of 70, 70. We moved to 100, 100, and then we moved our pen back up to 10, 50. As soon as we apply CTX fill, that actually closes the path. But if we're doing stroke, then we need to apply, or we can apply close path, or we can move the line back to 70, 70 if we want. And if we do want to change the fill color, we can do that as well, where if we want it to be green, You can see that now that fill color is going to be green. So when you do fill, any open shapes are automatically going to be closed. So what it's going to do is it's going to close the path of that open shape. And that's why we didn't have to include the last line where we're doing line 2, because it's automatically closing the shape. So begin path, what this does is this creates a new path that's going to be for future drawing commands. And then when you do the move to, what this does is this repositions where you're going to be starting, and you're going to be start the drawing position. So this is your starting point. And as you do the line 2, what this does is this moves a line over to wherever you're going to be going to. And then lastly, the fill fills it up. So if we wanted to just have the outline, if we wanted to just have a line, instead of fill, we can do a stroke. And what that will do is that's just going to do the outline of where all of the lines are that we moved. And in this case, we do need to do a line 2 because we're not closing that position. So if we want to close it off, we do need to include the line 2 back to the starting position. So when you're calling stroke, you're not closing off the path. So you can also add in ctx close path. And that's going to close off your path as well. So there's close path that you can add in order to close the drawing path that you created with the begin path. So try it out for yourself, draw some interesting shapes, and you can be ready to move on to the next lesson.